المعصومين المنتجبين سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من كان يريد الحياة الدنيا وزينتها نوفي إليهم أعمالهم وهم لا فيها لا يبخسون. أولئك الذين ليس لهم في الآخرة إلا النار وحبط ما صنعوا فيها وباطل ما كانوا يعملون. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear mu'mineen and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our a'mal in this month as we approach the end of the month of Ramadan. We just put behind us the nights of Qadr and the night of the 23rd of the month, the night of Juhani. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those whose prayers were accepted and their requests are answered, inshaAllah, amongst those who are purified and forgiven, inshaAllah, in the night of Qadr. And again, until the end of the month, we repeat, we say, we seek refuge to you. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو أن يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. That the month of Ramadan is over, or the Fajr, the dawn of this night comes, yet you still have anything in terms of sins or wrongdoings against me that I deserve your punishment for. We seek refuge to him from that. Inshallah, we are forgiven and none of that is remaining. And that would bring me to the discussion that I'd like to have for the next few nights of the month, inshallah. Perhaps as we feel or perceive ourselves to have done good, we prayed, we fasted, we did a'mal of the nights, we recited the Holy Quran, we've done all this. Now the question is, can we maintain those? Can we be amongst those whose fast is accepted in the sense that it is going to be in my book on the Day of Judgment? On the Day of Judgment, certain people look at their books expecting certain good deeds and it's not there. Certain people would have done some bad or evil acts, yet through sincere forgiveness, not only is it not in their book, but they have forgotten it. From the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forgives, He completely wipes it that you do not even remember it. Not the land, not the earth, not the time, not the body limbs, none of those would remember it. That is the real forgiveness and concealing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the Sattarul Uyub, غفار الذنوب. Ghaffar has a lot of emphasis and exaggeration in it, that he constantly and continuously forgives and continuously conceals over us. In Darud Dunya, in this world, he concealed over many of our errors, to the point that if people knew of who we really are, in the hadith we are told, if people knew of sara'ir, what is deep in our nafs, perhaps some of our wal'ayadu billah, selfish characteristics or thoughts, then there would be so much animosity. There won't be real friends in this world. This is how he conceals here. In the hereafter, he conceals to the point that we don't even remember the bad deeds. I'm bringing this up for a reason, because the concept of habt is very scary, and we have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiving, the most merciful. However, he warns about that part as well. وَإِنَّهُ لَشَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ وَإِنَّهُ لَغَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. In the end of Surah Al-An'am, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the same ayah brings and reminds us of those both sides of the coin. On the one hand, he is the most forgiving, the most merciful, but his punishment is severe. And that we need to remember. We cannot think that we are okay. We are fasting, I'm praying, I'm fasting, I've done a'mal of Laylatul Qadr, therefore I am saved, I'm good. And everything's good, I don't need to worry about anything. That is the wrong attitude, wrong mentality. In fact, that in itself is one of the diseases that could cause and lead to destruction. That's why I want to discuss in the next few nights the concept of voiding of deeds. The habt, what we have in the Holy Quran, the term used is habt, or it could be explained in some ayat. It's not just in the ayat that refer to habt. For example, in Surah Al-Furqan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَدِمْنَا إِلَى مَا عَمِلُوا مِنْ عَمَلٍ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا. We came to, or we attended to everything that they did, and we made it into dust, scattered dust. It's nothing. It's basically, it's gone. Nothing remains of it. This is in some ayat. Many other ayat clearly mention the term habt, which is to void something, to nullify something. In one of the ayat that in fact is the theme of our discussions, inshallah, for the next few nights, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Zumar, he addresses Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that this is, in fact, today we recited this ayah, that this is something we told people before you. وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ, it is revealed to you and to nations or people before you. وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. This is a standard thing. Nothing in this concept of habt and the reason of habt in this ayah, there are no exclusions. No nation is excluded. What is it? لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. If you ascribe partners for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then your actions, your deeds are going to be nullified, voided, destroyed. وَلَتَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And you will be amongst the losers. Therefore, a'mal wiped out, whatever deeds. And here doesn't only include ibadat. Our scholars are very clear on this. The ayah is very clear, and the scholars in their interpretation or in their explanation of the ayah are very clear that habt is not about ibadat. Amal, any amal. You give charity, you pray, you fast, you help someone in need, anything, if it comes to this level of shirk, then it'll be nullified, it'll be voided. Now we'll come to why and does that contradict the mercy or even the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as some may in fact question. So the habt is very clear in the Holy Quran, no questions about it. There are many ayat that it is clear that we come to anything they did. In the ayah of Surah Al-Furqan, he says, we come to anything they did. In Surah Hud, the same thing. وَحَبِطَ مَا صَنَعُوا فِيهَا وَبَاطِلٌ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Anything they did in dunya, it'll be voided, and it is falsehood, whatever they did. So it's all gone. There's no questions about habt happening. Now the question that arises is, does that contradict the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or does it even contradict the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? On the one hand, when it comes to the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to understand that this is based on what they want for themselves. For example, in Surah Hud, the ayat that I recited and began with, ayah 15 and 16, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in those ayat, he says, whoever wants dunya, whoever focuses on dunya, whoever does whatever they do, intention dunya, وَزِينَتَهَا نُوَفِّ إِلَيْهِمْ. If this is what they want, we give it to them. نُوَفِّ إِلَيْهِمْ أَعْمَالًا. Where? Here, فِيهَا وَهُمْ فِيهَا لَا يُبْخَسُونَ. In this world, they will not be underpaid. They did something, they will get paid for it. This is why I mentioned to mu'mineen and mu'minat, when we give sadaqat, do not expect returns here, or do not hope and be eager for return here. It is beautiful when we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is multiplying here. It's nice. But if it does not happen, don't question it. Rather be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's saving it for you for where it's more needed and more necessary. Here, those who do anything without the focus being Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will get paid for it. نُوَفِّ إِلَيْهِمْ أَعْمَالَهُمْ. Here they will get everything. أُولَٰئِكَ, then he says, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَيْسَ لَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا النَّارِ. Those people, they have nothing in akhirah except fire. وَحَبِطَ مَا صَنَعُوا. Anything that they did is voided. وَبَاطِلٌ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. What was the issue here? The issue was their own intention. Here, the intention, their own intention was dunya. Some people speak of certain people who may act generously, or who may be helpful, or who may even build, orphanage or hospital, whatever it may be. They think, okay, well, and some people tell me, what if they're atheists? They don't believe in God. They deny God. Or anti-theists. They're against any religion, against the concept of God. We seek refuge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from such level of ignorance, real ignorance. Where did you come from in the first place? The weak created that cannot create the life that he has been given, the gift of life, the gift of ruh that he has been given, and the gift of intellect that he can think with, and next thing he is using that intellect to deny the creator and deny the creation. Now these people, sometimes they may do certain good deeds and so on, The question is, why wouldn't they? They're doing good. Believe it or not, these people recognized and realized that this is better living here. Their focus is here. They realize that you live better here. Forget about the hereafter. They don't believe in it. They deny it. You live better here if you're a better neighbor. You live better here if you do certain things. It makes you feel, if it gives you pleasure, it makes you feel better. Some of it may be even done for show off. Some of it may be for economical gain. Some of it may be for election purposes, whatever it may be. They did not intend it for God. Why would He reward them for something that was not intended for Him? They denied Him and denied the akhirah and the rewards or the punishment of akhirah. They denied it all. Therefore, they have no share there. Now, this is obviously the level of denial of akhirah, focus on dunya. Then we have shirk. لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ, which is in fact the number one reason for nullifying and voiding deeds, whatever it may be. How does it work? How I do certain good deeds, I pray and fast, and when I did them for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God forbid somebody at some point starts ascribing partners for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at some level of shirk, then it voids them. How does that work? It is like a defect in the fruits. It is like a disease in a farm. A farmer comes and plants. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, riba, He will not make it grow. Sadaqah, charity, He'll make it grow. وَمَا أَنفَقْتُمْ, when you spend for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He'll make it grow. It's like a seed that you planted. That seed will start growing. And when it grows, it becomes a tree, or whatever you're growing, it gives its produce, its fruits. Eventually you start benefiting from it. What if it gets a disease? Sometimes a whole farm gets a disease, and that disease takes out the entire farm. The farmer plants and he works hard, waters, prepares the land, does everything, and in the end of the day, a disease comes and his entire farm becomes useless. It happens. Now, in the physical world, why it happens, what kind of a test, this is not our discussion or focus. The same thing applies to a'mal. Our deeds in dunya, we need, and this is the important reflection that we need to reflect on. We need to maintain them until the day of harvesting. This world is where you plant. Harvesting is not here. Harvesting is in the hereafter. I need to make sure that the farm is continuously maintained, and I'm cleaning it, making sure nothing happens. If I need to put a scarecrow to drive the crows or birds away, now you can translate that into the spiritual journey. Make sure that no shayateen from jinn and ins, they come. None of them comes and none of them destroys our good deeds. Some may cause you to become angry and do something that is not out of character for you, destroys your good deeds. You've done a whole night of Qadr, you've done all these prayers, fasting in the month of Ramadan. After the month of Ramadan, somebody oppresses you and does something perhaps not just towards you or oppressive towards you, and next thing you want to revenge and you go and do something unjust. You treat them unjustly, destroyed everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly in the Holy Quran says, do not, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَن لَا تَعْدِلُوا. They did something wrong, you detest them, you're angry with them, be just. Do what is right. Make sure that whatever we do, we maintain this farm until the time of harvesting, until the time where on the day of judgment we are presented and we are glad to see the good deeds that we maintained. We did not just plant them, not just water them, not just watch them sprout and grow. We maintain them all the way until the fruits come. The fruits are not here. It is the hereafter. People in the hadith, we are told this dunya is mazra'an. It is a farm. But for where? For akhirah. Our focus should be to maintain them until the day of judgment. This is very clear again in the ayat and in the riwayat that if we do not maintain them, then there's habt. One who at some point they were worshippers of the one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Due to certain things, they ascribe partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They start believing that wal-ayadu billah, it is not all in the hands of God. That shirk in actual fact is shirk and kufr are one. They're very much together. Shirk is what? It is kufr in some of the levels, some of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we say, Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir, for example, one of the attributes of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This very attribute is one that we constantly recite in the supplications. For instance, in the supplication in the month of Ramadan, we after Salat we recite Allahumma adkhil ala ahli al-qubur as-surur, Allahumma aghni kulla faqir. To the end of it, we come to the line, Innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. These du'as are not there for us to just read without understanding. Without understanding, it's meaningless. It's pointless. Well, meaningless, it goes without saying. If I don't understand, it is meaningless. And it's pointless. The focus should be understanding them. Innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. You have power over everything. If I question that power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wal-ayadu billah, I think somebody has power to do something without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or I want to ask someone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is where shirk destroys. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, go to your guardians, the ones you considered as guardians and the ones you considered as awliya, the ones you considered as the partners. Go to them, let them fix your problem, let them admit you to a good place in the hereafter. Obviously, it's not in their hands. Nobody can do anything. لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. Mulk always belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the day of judgment, it's clear. لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ. Who does it belong to today? Who is the king? Who is the judge? Who is the owner? مَالِكِ يَوْمِ الدِّينِ. He is Malik of every day, every time. But that mulk on the day of judgment, there is no confusion about it. Nobody's confused. Nobody at that point, الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا وَالَّذِينَ اتُّبَعُوا, both those who followed and those who are followed. Both of them are regretful and they want to dissociate with one another. They don't want anything to do with one another. Those who deceived others and were followed by them, as well as those who were deceived by them and followed them. Both of them, they say, we نتبرأ منهم. And these ones would say, we also do the same. We want to do nothing with these people. They all recognize, they all realize that it all belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is all in His hands. If we recognize that here, then we are purifying from that level of shirk that eventually, if we allow it to grow, it could overtake our heart and our mind, and it'll ruin our faith, questioning of some of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is it that in the night of Qadr, we recite for one of the most beautiful and recommended a'mal in the month of Ramadan to be recited 3 times, especially in the nights of Qadr, it is best, the Dua Jawshan. Dua Jawshan is for us to reflect on these names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we know who He is. We know that He has no partner. We know that He is the lover. He is the beloved. He is the tabib. He is the physician. If He wants to cure us physically or spiritually, He can. If He doesn't want to, nobody can. No, not a doctor, not a professor, not a nurse, not a medicine. Nothing can cure without the permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why focusing on Tawheed and maintaining the highest levels of Tawheed is important for us to be able to, inshaAllah, maintain our a'mal. A'mal are bound with Tawheed. Everything is hanging into Tawheed. You do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, accept it. You ascribe partners for Him, go and get your rewards from the partners. The level of Tawheed that we may have, in fact, determines our faith. Within Iman, we have وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, most people believing in God, they have shirk at lower levels, and some higher, and some even higher, to the point that some clearly speak shirk. Some think shirk. Some it may affect them at times and act on it, act on the shirk that they think, basically believing that, some of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He has partners in. These are the lower levels of shirk. And some, they speak it. Some would ridicule believers for speaking Tawheed, monotheism. The destruction of a'mal, the number one problem is shirk. لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. You ascribe partners for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your deeds are destroyed, gone, voided, nullified. Within shirk, obviously, there are levels, and the lower levels perhaps are not those that nullify everything. Yes, if one speaks shirk, announces the believing in partners for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then definitely everything is gone. In fact, some mu'mineen and mu'minat ask me, and this is important to reflect on, ask me about certain people of Ahlul Kitab, Christians, or perhaps Jews, or any other groups of faith. that they say these people are actually not Ahlul Kitab, they're not people of the book, they're mushrik, they're ascribing partners for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, on one level there is a shirk, but this is not announced shirk. I tell these people, if you ask them, they believe in Trinity. Okay, I understand they believe in Trinity, but you ask them, God is one or how many? They say no, one. You ask them, they'll tell you. They'll tell you God is one. Now, one represented in the Holy Spirit, and the Father is represented in the Holy Spirit in some sense, and in the Son in some sense, he somehow became the Son, but he's one. And when they speak of God, they speak of God. They refer to the one God. They consider themselves monotheists. None of them would tell you we are polytheists. They maintain that they are monotheists. That is, again, I'm not saying that there is no level of shirk. Believe it or not, many of us, we have some levels of shirk. In our, even some of us, in not just in terms of our the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or in terms of our just the emotions or the feelings, or the some of us we act on it, and some may even go as far as speaking it. Now in fact some mu'mineen, sometimes they have some poetry about even Ahlul Bayt salawatullah wa salamu alayhim. In some of the poetries, they get close to that, crossing the red line, and we need to be careful. Maybe even crossing the red line. Maybe they don't mean it. That is between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we need to be careful. And we should not allow, even if we don't intend them in that way, the words that lead to any level of shirk, we need to avoid them. That to some, they go for instance, for ziyarah, and somebody, I did not hear it myself, but somebody heard it and said to me that someone went to the shrine of one of the imams and said, I want it from you, not from God. Literally, the statement was made, I want it from you, not منك أريدها مو من رب العالمين والعياذ بالله. I want it from you, not from the Lord of the worlds. I mean, again, you might say, well, he doesn't intend it that way. You might say maybe he means that you can, but whatever it is, it is crossing red lines, crossing limits. This is one, but this is the spoken, the very obvious. We have so many levels of it that maybe within us, in the way we live our lives, in the way we behave, in the way we deal with wealth and money, in the way we deal with authorities and governments, in the way we deal with even friends and community members, a boss at work, and so on. We may have those levels, and if we allow them to continue, it comes to a point. This is the most important. And tonight I'm giving a summary. Inshallah, we'll try and elaborate a little bit on some of those things in the next couple of nights. The most dangerous thing that could happen comes the time of death, and one who has not purified, at that very moment, shaitan comes and destroys everything for them. That is the most scary part. There is a very famous story of one who was worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly, known as Barsisa. Now, there are many, in fact, many different versions of this very story, and many talks about it, whether it's true, whether it's fiction. That's Allahu A'lam. It is based on, in fact, some ayat of the Holy Quran refer to a level of dying as a disbeliever. And in the tafsir, Mufassirin have given stories, one of the, or different explanations. One of them is about this Barsisa al-Abid. Apparently he lived at the time of Bani Israel, some of the prophets of Bani Israel, and he was a Abid. He used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had knowledge, and he committed a sin. To prevent people from knowing that sin, and to prevent basically exposure in front of people, he completed with another sin. So he committed one sin that caused a sister of some men who brought her, and she was of a famous family. He realized she's pregnant. Then he actually killed her and buried her. Eventually, and this is the scary part about this story, eventually Shaitan, and he basically, most of it was with the influence of Shaitan. However, he gave in to his temptations at that initial stage. Shaitan, at his death, when he was about to be killed, he was crucified, about to be killed. Before his death, he came and said, I put you in this, I exposed you, and I put you in this, and I am capable of getting you out of this. All I want you to do is one thing. He said, what? He said, do sujood to me. I consider me as powerful as God, and you deny, in other words, deny the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You prostrate to me. He said, well, you see me in the situation that I'm in. He says, well, you do it with your eyes, not even physically, just with your eyes, with iman, acknowledge my power and my ability, and I can save you, and I will save you. So then he did shirk to that level, considering Shaitan as his as someone who's powerful at the level that could save him besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wal-'iyadhu billah. Then he said to him, I have nothing to do with you. I got what I need from you. And this is given in the translation or the interpretation of the آيات كمثل الشيطان إذ قال للإنسان كفر فلما كفر قال إني بريء منك. When Shaitan says to insan, disbelieve, when he disbelieved, he said, I have nothing to do with you. I dissociate myself with you. I fear God. This is an example that somebody goes from a abid to a bad ending. Many of those examples you can read about, many, in fact, stories of from our great scholars of certain individuals who had knowledge, and towards the end things turned in a way that they died. They could not even say the shahada at their death. One of the very important things to do for the mayyit is to come and do talqeen, remind them to die as a believer, to die remembering. Some of these individuals, as they were doing talqeen for them, they could not do it. One example I want to give you is a particular scholar. His son narrates. He says that when we were giving my father the talqeen, he could not say the shahada, and he was in a very bad state. We were very disturbed. Why is he in such a state? And he could not say the shahada. He was shivering and shaking. He could not say it until he felt a little bit better. He improved a little bit. And then he said to me, you go and get a letter. You'll find it. He gave him the address in a box. You'll find it. You get this letter for me. He said, okay, bring it. So he brought it. He said, rip it into pieces. This letter, rip it into pieces. Then he says, okay. Then he could actually say the shahada. And he explained why. He said to his son that this was a letter, basically a receipt of a debt that somebody I paid some money to, and he signed for me that he owes me this money. I am departing, and I was worried about this one. And Shaitan was, I saw, someone like Shaitan, or a figure, a satanic figure, holding this letter in front of me, and that's why, he was not able to even say his shahada. Holding that in front of me and saying to me, you see this one, you die and it's gone. Basically, he was worried about that. And at that point, when he asked for it to be ripped, in other words, I forgive him. If he comes and gives it to my children, to the heirs, to those who would inherit whatever is left, well and good. Consider it as a bonus for them. If it's gone, it's gone. Worry about something more important. You're departing, they're going to be sustained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like you were sustained. Focus on your journey and your akhirah. That actually changed the situation for him. There are certain things that nullify and void a'mal, and we need to be careful about those. Some of them may lead to a bad death, that one is okay until pretty much the last moments of their lives, and they die wal-'ayadu billah, in a state of disbelief, or in a state of questioning and doubts, or in even a state of shirk. Wal-'ayadu billah, we seek refuge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are two different types of habt, and I'll inshallah finish with those. One is what is for the obviously the kuffar and mushrikeen, people who disbelieve, people who ascribe partners openly, clearly, and so on. This is one level of habt. Munafiqeen also included, hypocrites, they're included in that level. There is another level which is not only for those people. It is for the believers. It is for people who, wal-'ayadu billah, and this is a tough one. There is a controversy or this debate among scholars whether this is possible, the second level. However, we have clear hadith about it, and some of the, in fact, the other schools, not the school of Ahlul Bayt, some of the other schools, they consider this level of habt as not just, because, or as going against the ayat of the Holy Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whoever does the atom weight of good, they will see it. Whoever does the atom weight of bad, they will see it. Therefore, they say, how could one do certain good deeds and they would, how would they be gone? We respond to that simply through the ayat of the Holy Quran about, in fact, the other way around. The same ayah says, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. You will see anything good. Okay, they like that one, they stick to it. Hold on to it. Anything good stays. Okay. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. So what about tawbah and istighfar? Evil, you will see it too. So what about tawbah? What about istighfar? What about the ayah that he says, أُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ. Some, if they taba wa amana wa amila salihan, he returns, he believes and does good, God will turn their bad deeds into good deeds. Complete turn. Bad deeds into good deeds. We like all that, we stick to it. But comes to a good deed, nullified, voided, no. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly gives us examples in the Holy Quran about people whose actions are voided, or deeds are voided and nullified. And we have many in the riwayat. We have examples in the riwayat of somebody who disrespect parents. Okay, if somebody is undutiful and disrespects parents, deeds would be nullified. We have riwayat about, for instance, somebody who oppresses, a husband oppresses the wife. Certain deeds would be nullified, voided. A wife who says to her husband, I have never seen any goodness from you. لم أرى خيرا منك قط. Sometimes a wife gets angry and says that to her husband. Deeds nullified, voided. We have riwayat about that. Siyam, Salah, did all these things, voided. These are some levels of voiding. So we have levels of voiding of everything. And that is for kuffar, munafiqeen, mushrikeen. And we have some levels of voiding for the, in fact, believers. Amongst the reasons that inshallah we will discuss is to openly disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know that it is haram, I don't care. We have riwayat that say this nullifies certain deeds. Also, to knowingly deny the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt, nullifies. Knowingly denying the wilayah of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen or any of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. This is very important because sometimes, for instance, we have even a poem, very beautiful poem, وصام ما صام صواما بلا ملل وقام ما قام قواما بلا كسل. If لو أن عبدا أتى بالصالحات غدا, if a servant does so many righteous deeds, prays and fast and does all these things, it's a long poem but it's beautiful. He says ما كان ذلك يوم الحشر ينفعه إلا بحب أمير المؤمنين علي اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. On the day of judgment it would not benefit him except with the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. What do we mean by that? The opposite of love is what? To detest. You cannot be neutral to Imam Ali alayhi salam or Ahlul Bayt. The Imam, either love or hate. If you don't know them, you know such characteristics and you're in love with their characteristics, it's a different story. We'll come to that. We've discussed this before. However, denial of the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt is one of the reasons that A'mal could be nullified and voided. One of them is kibr, arrogance. We said it's one of the diseases of the heart. It's one of the reasons why actions are voided. There are hadith that inshallah we'll go through some of those and what nullifies, or also what we could do to inshallah maintain our good deeds and not allow them to be nullified and voided, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us maintain our good deeds that we have done, not to be proud about them. Through His guidance, He gave us the opportunity to do certain deeds. We ask Him to guide us to maintain them until we meet Him on the day of judgment and be rewarded for them, and not for them to be nullified and voided. We ask Him to make us amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. If there are any questions or comments, if you want to message the questions as well, you can. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, Maulana.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. Sorry,
Thank
I
you
was
so
reading a
much.
question.
No, I just wanted to, nobody's asking questions, so I just wanted to thank you for the lecture. And
Yeah, sorry, I was leaning forward to read the question. I need glasses these days.
oh, okay.
I'm getting old, or I don't think I know. Yeah, when we sleep, our soul is taken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He returns it. When we awaken, are we told anything about how this relates to times when we have trouble sleeping or keep waking up over and over all night long? The state of our spiritual state does affect our sleep, although sometimes it might be physical effects. You know, sometimes we overeat and we have difficulty sleeping, or we have stomachache, or we have caffeine, or we have tea, or some of those things may affect us. So the physical state affects us. There's a very strong relationship between body and soul. Obviously, the body is the carrier, it's the vehicle that carries the soul. So there's a very strong relationship between them, and they affect one another. You know, if we have healthy, good food, for example, and we have exercise, it even helps us spiritually. Fasting affects us physically, has physical benefits. Sumu tasухhu. It actually boosts the immune system, which I shared with some mu'mineen, the article that one of our community members, and he's a doctor, physician, shared a beautiful article, new release about, in fact, the benefits of fasting, or what they call intermittent fasting. Nowadays, it's becoming more and more common. Its benefits and its effect on the immune system, its positive effect on the immune system. So we have fasting, for example, boosting the immune system and giving us physical benefits. It definitely has spiritual benefits. So sometimes what we do physically may affect our sleep. Sometimes it could be our spiritual state. Now, thinking is part of the spiritual side. That's what we need to understand. Our thought process is part of, and that is very much linked to the spiritual side. Emotions are linked to the spiritual side. Although when we speak of emotions, we speak of the heart. When we speak of thinking, we speak of the brain. The brain may be the reflection of thinking, that we have, certain activity, electromagnetic activity, or certain things that are happening in the brain, and we attribute that to thinking. That is the effect. That is the reflection of thinking, which has to do with the spiritual side on the physical side. The emotions, feelings, it may cause, if you are in love, you have, your heartbeat is, when you see your beloved, you start having perhaps faster heartbeat, and so on. Those emotions, when they occur, they may affect the physical heart, but that's not the center of the emotions. Neither is it the brain. Those things have to do with the spiritual side. And yes, those things are the ones that often affect, our sleep, and whether we sleep well or we don't sleep well. The stronger our faith is, the more stable we are emotionally, and in terms of the mind and heart are at peace, and therefore time for sleep, one can sleep, when they need to sleep. I know some of my teachers, amazingly, they say, okay, I need to have a nap. I'm short on sleep. I need to have a nap. And there's, let's say, 15 minutes to prayers. He says, I need to have 10 minutes nap. I'll be up in 10 minutes to get ready for prayers. Literally, the minute they say that, the next minute they're gone. They're asleep. And then it's almost like switch on, switch off. It's in their control to that degree, that they have such a level of peace in their mind and in their heart that they don't have any of those issues. Yes, at times circumstances do affect how they even may be because of certain circumstances. For instance, when they are in a situation expecting perhaps the next day being, for instance, the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his companions and the family members did not sleep. It's a night of farewell, it's a night of prayers and worshiping and so on. But again, it's in their control. They have that peace, and we pray that we can get there, inshallah, to get that level of peace. Besides the physical reasons that may affect us, there are definitely spiritual reasons that affect us, affect the peace in the mind and the peace in the heart, that would spiritual mind and heart here we're speaking, that would affect our ability to sleep well, to have good sleep, peaceful sleep, in fact rejuvenating and strengthening sleep. All of this is affected by our state of mind and state of the heart. I hope that answers the question. جزاكم الله جميعا. There are no other questions. Inshallah, I'll seek your permission.
أحسنت مولانا. السلام عليكم.
Okay. في أمان الله. Please keep us in your dua, all of you. Inshallah. في أمان.